So last week we concluded with this box. So today we want to do a few things. We're going to set up some views. We'll talk about how to intersect some dissimilar objects. We'll place some kind of windows and doors, and we'll place some materials. So I think the box is obviously a great place to start, but I'm just going to move over to the side a little bit, and let's kind of draw something else here. So we all can actually draw really quick objects now, which is great, right? So just type in 12 inches, and we can offset this in. So let's offset this in let's do 9 inches. And let's extrude this out. And we want to create some sort of kind of fun roof here. So let's maybe go up 6 feet. Nope. I want to go up 6 feet. 6. And let's go up 12 inches here. And I'm just creating a little bit of a roof here to have some fun with this object. Let's extrude this out. Let's extrude this out 48 inches. Let's extrude this out 24. 24. And we'll go back 24. So we have our building, so to speak, here. We didn't really group anything together here, and that's fine. We can do some grouping of stuff after. It's usually just a little bit more difficult to grab the exact things that you want to grab. But we can do something like this, and we can make group for our roof, and then we can hide it. So now we can kind of see inside, and you can see that we are missing some walls on the inside of this part here, so we can extend this up. And what we may want to do see if this actually works here. I think we extended it up higher. Yeah, we did. Okay. So I'm actually just gonna bring these lines straight up, and we'll do something else here to get this to extend well. What I'm gonna do is gonna delete this line here. And so if we have an object like this that we want to fill in, sometimes it's actually just a matter of closing it in like that, and then where these lines that we just created vertically stick out, we can actually connect in all those areas, and then we can delete that piece in the middle. So we can click here and delete that. So I like to try to show a lot of different techniques when I'm showing stuff. So I think sometimes you kind of learn from weirdness and just kind of struggling and mistakes, probably more than you do from just learning the basics of an item. So that's how I would fix that part. And the next one here, we're going to grab the base here. So this is the base of our object, and we want to make that as another group, so we want to make that as a floor. And this is going to probably cause some issues here, so let's right click and hide that. And you can see we have kind of this same thing going on. We are kind of missing the walls going all the way down. So we can fix that through pretty much the same technique that we just did, so I'm not going to bother doing that. But here's where this gets more interesting. So we can make this a group as well. And we want to add a window or a door or something into this object. And so the first thing we want to do, we want to open up our group here, and we want to place a window. And so depending on what you want to do, let's maybe go in maybe 12 inches from the corner here, and we're going to find a line. We're going to go up, let's go up maybe 3 feet. Nope, that's 3 inches. One of these days I'll get used to typing in 3 feet. And we maybe want to go over, let's call it 3 feet over. That actually looks small. Let's go over a little farther. Let's go over 2 more feet. And what I'm doing here is I'm creating a box, if you're wondering. So let's go up 6 feet. That actually looks small as well. And so we have now a box here. We can remove this kind of line on the bottom. And what we want to do now is we want to extrude this box in. So by extruding that box in, we now have an opening. And this theoretically could be our window. And so we have that extra line on top and bottom, just on bottom, that we can draw. So we have that window. And so let's create one on the opposite side. Let's go in 12 inches as well. And there's a couple different parts to this. So the first part is creating that opening. And then the next part would be adding some sort of glass or material into it so it looks more like a window. And same concept kind of applies to a door. So let's extrude this in. So now we have this beautiful corner of windows. Let's draw this line across here. Let's go over 12. And find our point up if it lets me. There we go. Let's go down like this, and then what do we have here for a distance? So let's maybe go to the center here. Let's go 30 inches from the center each way. So I did my window as 5 feet, so 30 inches is half that. And then we can kind of create this other box in there. So hopefully that wasn't too complex to do, but the goal was to create some openings in here, and however you want to do your openings in your project is fine. And it doesn't like this. What am I doing here? There we go. And what do we got here? We got something else. What did I do now? I don't see this happen too much, but looks like we have some sort of kind of glitch going on with our walls. It looks like I kind of created a wall in the middle of the walls or something. Yeah, so this wall got extruded in too far. Like that. There we go. And now it's missing a bottom piece. Sweet. And we can delete these. Doesn't look like we can delete these. Alright. Just having a great time here. Okay. So I added a line on the top like that to connect them. And again, I think it's important to kind of see how to solve some of these things and some of the issues that you might have. So now that we have this window, I'm actually going to close this group. And what I want to do is I want to actually put my glass as a separate group inside so we have control over it. But before we do that, we want to place some materials on the building, just the building overall. So over here on the outside, on the bar on the side, we actually have a material panel, and we can look at lots of various materials in here. So if brick is your kind of material of choice, we can grab a certain brick, and then we can go up here and use this paint bucket, and we can paint brick on all those different walls. And you can see that when I hit paint, it actually painted it on everything. And that's because we're painting outside of the group. So if we go in and open up our group here, we can paint inside of the group. And let me just open up that group again. Edit group. All right, let's try this again. There we go. So now when we paint, we can paint only the individual walls that we want to paint. So lots of different materials in here, and you can certainly bring in your own as well. So we can click the home button here. Let's see. What do we have? Let's go up here. Let's go to materials. Let's go to wood, maybe. Maybe these wood boards. Kind of cool. So however you want to draw and colorize, I guess, your building is nice. So we'll leave it like that. And then maybe on the interior, we do some sort of plywood or something like that. It's a very naughty plywood, but it's fine. Kind of a rustic cabin vibe here. So we have windows, we have holes in the walls, we have our walls itself. Let me see if we can go here. Let's go to metal. What do we have for metal materials here? Let's just do this like metal thing up here. And sometimes it's nice actually if you color the inside of your windows like this. So there are different layers, I guess, in terms of the coloring and making things look good. And so what I mean by that is you could just place that hole and you could physically model a whole window element within that hole. And so you can cover that whole edge so it wouldn't necessarily matter. But I'm just going to do this kind of a more simple way, just to kind of get you started with stuff. So I'm just painting these the gray so they kind of look decent. So we've got some windows there. So I'm going to close this component, or close this group. And now what I want to do is I'm going to create another group. So let's go up to, I believe it's edit. Let's go to make group. And I'm going to start the make group first, so that I'm already drawing in a group. And I don't have to go about finding that group and kind of going the backwards way I did before. And so let's go here. And for our window, we want to create some resemblance of glass. And so there's a few different things when it comes to a window. I think the first kind of basic way is we can actually just trace this opening. And once we trace this opening, we can go to our paint bucket and we can find some glass material. And we can just apply this glass material like so. So that's kind of a very basic window. It's obviously not super great in terms of its detail, but it does provide that. The next way of maybe doing this is we can almost do the same thing, but we can add a little bit more detail. So let's start by tracing our perimeter there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this out maybe 2 inches, like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, what's it called, button. I'm going to use the offset button. And let's offset in 2 inches. And so now we've got the appearance of a bit of a frame. And so I'm just going to extrude in our center part here. Like so. And then I'm just going to retrace this in once more. And another way to do it is I can actually just draw one line on here. And I'm just going to extrude this in to the center of that object. If it lets me. No, okay, let's just extrude it in 1 inch, because we know it's 2 inches. And so now we have a few different places we can apply materials on, but by having that frame, it starts to look a little bit more intricate. So we've got the frame there, and let's go to our metals, and let's apply some of that metal here. Let's grab something a little bit different. I really don't like any of these metals, to be honest with you, but let's maybe grab this gold one. And let's, where am I going? Let's apply this on the inside as well. And that this starts to make your model look significantly better by having those different materials. And I have my floor hidden right now, so no, I don't have it hidden. I have that object in there, so let's close that. And I think this actually might be another time to bring up another really great technique, which is, let's close that group, which is sections. So if we go to unhide and we go up here to the edit button and we go to unhide our group here, we can unhide all. We have our building that we had before here. Maybe we want to apply a roof material here, so let's apply some sort of metal roofing on here, and then the perimeters we can do in gray. I don't know why they chose blue as a color for metal roofing, but it is what it is. And so we have our roof looking pretty decent there. I want to cut through our building to look inside without having to hide parts of my group, and I want to see what's going on. And so SketchUp has a tool here called the section tool, section plane, and we can cut a building in different ways. So we could cut this way, and we'll call this section 1. And so we can grab this section here, and we can move it through our building like so. So if I only want to see a part of our building, and if I want to paint these interior edges, you know, this is a great way to do it because I don't have to see our whole building, right? So we've got our two different windows there. There is another thing that we can do. Maybe we like that one window and we maybe want to apply that to another place. And as you notice, I made all the windows the same size, so it's really easy, obviously. And so what we can do here, let's go to this window here and let's just trace it. And actually, before I trace that, let's go to make another group. But this time, instead of a group, we're going to make a component. And let's go to our box here and make this right inside my component or not. Okay, I'm not inside my component. All right, let's grab these lines that I just created again here. Like this. Let's go to edit. Let's go to make component. So let's call this component window. And we're going to right click on it. We're going to go to edit component. And let's do the same thing we just kind of did there. Let's maybe add a little bit more detail. So let's offset by a 1/2 inch, so 0.5. And let's extrude that 1/2 inch out, actually. Let's extrude it out by 1/2 inch. And then let's offset that inner part by 2 inches. And I'm kind of doing this based on a lot of window systems I know. I did 2 feet there. Having troubles clicking right now. So 2 inches. And then Let's also add what's called a mutton bar or mullions. Let's add, I guess, a bit of a division here of our windows. And so we have this. Let's maybe go, we can actually use the offset button here. So let's offset 0.5 of an inch. .5 again. Keep clicking something. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this interior line here, this kind of center part. And this is obviously a very traditional window, but it has the ability to look pretty good. So let's extrude this inside part in all the way. Let's extrude this part in. Yeah, let's extrude this in all the way as well. And then let's extrude this into the middle. So let's go to maybe 4 inches. And it looks like because we extruded all that in, we're missing our outer part. So let's close that in as well. I think we had, let's just line that up. And, I think this is obviously a little exhaustive in terms of watching me kind of draw the window pieces, but I also just kind of want to give you some techniques on windows that are useful, and it can help you draw some cool windows and make your project look a little bit better. Because when it comes to SketchUp, I think the biggest thing is detail really helps your design. And it doesn't look like, there we go. Okay, let's extrude this in a little bit. Let's go to 2 inches. And what I'll do here is I'm going to actually make another component. Or we can let's actually make this a group. And so we can make a group within a component. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add a piece of glass. But we can add it all the way through kind of inside our window a little bit here. And that way we can make that whole window part a different color really easily. And we can also make this glass a different color. So let's make this glass like so. Let's close our group. And let's paint all of our window to be metal. So let's paint this metal. Oh, we're painting it glass apparently. There we go. We can also darken this a little bit. So if we want to make that metal color that we're using even darker, we can. Let's paint all these pieces. Again, a little bit annoying to watch me paint stuff. It's not necessarily watching paint dry, if you know the expression, but not the most interesting thing. And I think how do you know why I drew what I just drew? I think part of that's just my experience in the industry with windows and stuff like that, but I think this is a pretty decent resemblance of kind of a more traditional window. And up to you what you want to draw. I mean, you don't have to draw a more traditional window, but you can say that when you look at this from the outside, let's close our component. When you look at this from the outside, you can say that it probably does look a lot more real, right? It looks like it's an actual window, whereas these just kind of look like a hole, you know? So adding more detail sometimes adds a little bit of interest in terms of, you know, what you're looking at. So hopefully that makes sense. So with our building here now, we have this section plane set up, and we can move this section plane back maybe a little bit. Move button here. Let's move this back. Let's maybe move it like right there. And I want to set up a view associated with this section plane because the section plane looks good, and we want to kind of use that and replicate that, or have it kind of set up so we can go back to that area. So let's go to our view tab, and actually no, let's not go to the view tab. Let's go to our toolbar here. I'm just going to open up this toolbar button called views, and I just really like this little bar here. I find it super helpful because we can see different sides of our building without too much work. So we have this view here, and we can keep this view as a parallel projection. Essentially means it's looking flat, right, versus looking at it looking at it's flat instead of looking at it with a perspective, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So let's go back to that view there. And now that we have kind of a view set up, we want to start to save some of our views. And so let's, it's actually been a while since I've saved a camera. So let's see, scenes. We can go down here to scenes, and we can click a new scene, and we can create a scene. And so this ends up being a photo. We can rename this. We can call this section view. And we can also, in this view, we could hide our section pane. Let's do that again. So let's hide our section. And let's go down here and go to update scene. And so now we have this kind of section view already set up. Let's go back into here. Let's go to unhide all. Unhide all. And let's go to this section view, and let's turn off active, and because we don't want to use that right now, so let's hide that. So that's not active. We can actually hide our other pieces out here as well. Let's hide those. And this one was locked, so let's unlock it, and then we can hide it. And this is locked too. Unlock, hide. And so I want to create a camera view looking towards our building. So let's go here to position camera, and let's kind of drag something. I didn't really like what it dragged there, so let's just manually place that. So we'll find something down at our perspective view, and let's go up here to our tools, and let's go to camera. Let's go to perspective view, or 2-point perspective view, and let's find our building. Where did our building go? Like so. So we've got our building there. And then let's go down here to our scene button, and let's add another scene here as well. And let's call this exterior 3D. We've got our exterior 3D view there. And probably the most important section view, I would say, is a floor plan, because that's, you do want to show a floor plan. And so let's create another section plane, and this time I'm going to place it kind of on the bottom here. Does it want us to, like so? And we're going to call this floor plan. And we want to drag this section view up, basically. So we want to cut here roughly. So when it comes to floor plans, typically the standard in the industry is you want to cut at 4 feet. So if you can kind of figure out where 4 feet is on your body, going forward, when people talk about floor plans, you kind of want to think, okay, where is my body at 4 feet? That's where we're cutting our floor plan. So we're seeing desks, we're seeing light switches, we're seeing, theoretically we are seeing a little bit of these boards as well, right? We're seeing the windows. We're not seeing the ceiling, we're not seeing fans, we're not seeing physical lights, so we're just seeing those objects that are below that element. So now that we have this here, let's hide that section plane, and then let's go to our top view. I think this is just a great tool to have these little views set up here, because it just makes it easy to navigate. And so with this floor plan, we have a couple options. We can keep it in parallel projection, which just is a straight upward view. So let's create that. Let's create a floor plan here, and let's rename this to, let's call this floor plan, and let's just call this parallel, or let's just call this floor plan. Let's call it straight floor plan. And let's do another one with perspective. And so we'll create another scene, and we'll call this floor plan perspective. And I think it's nice to do that, because the perspective views, again, are nice because you can see how it's actually showing the walls a little bit here. We're seeing our window frame. And so it starts to actually look a little bit more three-dimensional, which is why that's nice. But sometimes you just want that standard, 2D floor plan view, right? And so let's go into here. Let's add some materials, and I'm speaking for a lot longer than I thought I was going to hear today, but hopefully some good content. Let's maybe grab this. That's more of, let's put this down here, and then that one's probably better. So I'm going to change the scale of this. Let's make it 12 feet, just to make it a little bigger. And then let's edit the color a little bit. So let's make it a little lighter, something like that. Let's close group. And you could say that you all decided that you really liked your new window and you don't like the old one, so let's delete that. And then we can actually just copy this. So let's use the move button. And one thing I shouldn't have done is have the window sticking out farther than the wall here. So I'm just going to come down here. And if you see at the bottom of my screen, it's going to ask us if we would like to copy. We can hit the control button on our keyboard. And so if I hit control, you can see that it keeps the window in its original place. And it just copies it. So hit control again. And let's hit control again. And this one's a little weird because this one we're going to have to rotate. So up here we have the rotate button. And if you want to, if we use the arrows on our keyboard, we can change the direction of rotate. Rotate that 90 degrees. And then let's go up to edit here. Let's unhide everything, unhide all. And let's click on our section plane. and let's turn off its activeness. So we have our building there. We have windows. Theoretically, we could create a door too. That would be a good thing to do. These windows I made 2 feet off the ground, so if we wanted to do a door, it's obviously the exact same thing. I'll go up 12 inches instead of 24 or 36. So let's go 12, and let's go 36 inches wide. It's a standard door, and then let's see. Did I do this at 8 feet? Oh, that's really tall. All right, let's go up 8 feet for a door. And I did 8 inches, of course I did. Let's go up 8. I did it again. Sweet. 8 feet. I don't know why it's not locking. There we go. And let's extrude this in. It looks like we have this imaginary floor that I think I created. I don't know why that's up so high. We'll have to fix that. Yeah, I don't know what the heck I created that with, but I've got some really fun stuff going on here. I don't know what the heck I did. Alright, and then let's just grab our mouse here and let's delete this. So hopefully you'll have less fun than I'm having. Oh, it actually removed our exterior material. This is weird. I'm going to hide these sections because they're kind of getting annoying. Let's close group. Let's hide them. For some reason our floor got lifted up, so let's lower that down. And yeah, it's almost like my walls got raised or something like that, or lowered or something. I don't know how I did that, so let's just fix that quickly here. And then let's erase everything on the bottom. Again, hopefully you'll have less fun than I'm having right now. But sometimes it's good to make, I think the one thing I made a mistake with is I made the group after. I think it's probably better if you make the group before. So let's close our group. Or actually we are in the right group. So let's make this 8 feet now. 9 feet. Okay. Let's get that to align, and I'm just not liking to align things today. There we go. I'm going to erase that middle line. And let's just delete this outer part here. Okay. Let's extrude that in. And then we can delete some of these lines here. I don't know what I did to cause this mess, but there we have a door opening now. That was a lot of work to get to a door opening. So, and it actually is aligned at the top now, so I don't know what I did to make it not aligned to the top, but anyways. All right, so that took a lot longer than I wanted to. So we'll close our group here. We have our floor, we have our door, we have our walls. So the last thing I maybe cover, and then we can have a bit of a work period, is when we have a couple objects. So let's go up here and let's create our polygon. And I'm going to use the minus button, and we're going to go down to Control minus. We're going to go down to a triangle. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, just so we can see this. I'm going to grab this triangle, and we're going to create an extrusion. So let's add all of these in. And before I fully close this in, I'm just going to erase this middle line. And so let's add our last point here. And so you've created a pyramid like this, but you want to intersect a different shape, right? So let's just say that you want to intersect something like a circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line out here to the side. And the purpose of me drawing this line is just to give me a reference place of where my circle is going to start. And so let's go up here to our shape, and this will all make sense in a second. We're going to go to our circle here, and if you remember, we can click on the arrows to change the direction of our shape. And let me see here if I can get it to align. Yeah, there we go. Nope, that's not a line. I don't know why that's not. Seems to want to go this direction. We'll just do it this direction. So I have a circle here. Let's move this circle to the end of our line. So I'm going to grab the move button. I'm going to grab the middle point, and I'm going to move it to our point here, right there. And what I want to do with this circle, because that was obviously not going to plan, is I want to rotate it. So I'm just going to use the arrow keys here, and I want to get to the blue one that's flat. And I want to rotate this circle, and I deselected it, of course. Let's rotate this circle, the blue, like this. We want to rotate this to be parallel with our object here, so something like that. And what I want to do now, that obviously took a lot longer than I wanted to. What I want to do now is I want to actually extrude this circle, and actually it's still not really aligned, to be honest with you. Let's select this, and let's rotate. The cool thing now is we can grab the center of this, and we can rotate it on, and we're rotating the line, of course, not our cylinder. And again, hopefully you have less struggles than I'm having right now. But let's grab that. Let's grab the arrows. The good news about me doing this is I'm going to do this again in my next class. So if you don't want to watch me struggle, you can watch the recording from that class. So we have our cylinder here, so that seemed to work a little bit better. And where I'm going with this is we have a weird shape and another weird shape. So we want to maybe extrude I still don't have it aligned. What? Oh no, I guess it is aligned. I want to extrude this triangle from this cylinder. How do we do that? They're not rectilinear. We can't trace that box, right? Because there's no box. So if we were to grab both of these shapes, we can actually go up here to, I believe it's under Tools here, and we can click this Interact button. Is that the one? No. Edit. Sorry, I did this last week. Intersect faces with selection, right here. Sorry, let's select that again. So let's go here. Let's go to intersect faces with selection, and you can see how now it actually finds that intersecting line. And what we can do with this now is we can actually delete this whole cylinder object, delete this whole cylinder object, and we actually have a cut through on this pyramid now. So this pyramid is now kind of fully cut through and intersected. So as you're working through your shapes, that's a way to make them intersect and work. It kind of auto does it. I mean, SketchUp is also not as intelligent as Blender is. So I mean, you're probably going to have more issues with SketchUp, but it also may be simpler because it's not going to want to do things that are super complex. So yeah, so I mean, it's a cool tool to be able to do stuff like this. I mean, you could take this a step further. We could go back to this shape. I can actually right click on this. We can hide. We could do the same thing, and I'm just going to kind of show this, maybe not in a super detailed way, but before we intersect, we could actually offset this 6 inches. No, actually, let's go more. Let's offset to 24 inches. And let's grab a shape here. Let's maybe go up 30 feet. And let's maybe go up 6 feet. This is obviously not completely exact, but what we can do is we can create a smaller pyramid within a bigger pyramid. And what I can do with this is I can go in here and actually delete this internal and delete this line here. So when you think about a kid's playground, instead of having a circle intersecting a pyramid, we're actually almost creating like that physical wall of that pyramid. And so now when we go to intersect, I mean, we can intersect any shape, right? So I can intersect another triangle. We can add some more sides to this. Let me just click the arrows here, and we can make this bigger. This one's a little bit easier to do because it's more rectilinear, but when we extrude this object through, it's going to obviously be a lot different in terms of what it shows, right? And maybe I made that too big, but let's, yeah, we'll just leave it like that. But what we can do now is we can click that intersect and view or edit intersect with selection. Now when we go to remove all this stuff, it gives us this super weird intersection line, something like that, and something like that, and all these are gone, all those are gone. And so you kind of have this like super weird kind of shape that we have here, but we can keep that pyramid form inside of it. So I mean, obviously I've kind of really fully eliminated that whole object almost, but just kind of gives you some more techniques. So windows and doors we talked about placing materials, we talked about making a component like a window and then copying that element. We talked about cutting and then lastly intersecting. So the only last thing to cover is tagging. And so when we have an object, for example, like our window, we can have a tag up here. And tags are almost like layers in some respects. And so we can go in here, let's click new tag, let's type in Windows. And we can grab our window elements here. And I'm just holding the control button on my keyboard. And we can move these into our window tag. And then what I can do here is I can actually click the visibility of that window and just turn it off. So I'm only turning off the windows, not everything. Same thing I could do here. I could actually add another tag called the roof. And we can grab up here and make that a roof. And then again, we can turn off our roof. And so tagging is kind of like hiding and unhiding everything, but you're giving more control and you're being specific at what you want to hide and unhide. So maybe another way to think about it is if we had this box over here, we could have this one wall, instead of right-clicking and hiding it, we could have this one wall as a tag called front wall. And we can apply that to that wall. And we can just turn off that wall when we want to see in our building. So if you have views that you're trying to set up to show of different things, then tagging is a way to potentially hide certain walls if you're trying to show that or not show that in a camera view. And so when you when you go to your settings for your different camera views here, you could certainly apply those tags to different elements. So let me see here. So we could go to here and we could say that we don't want and it looks like here I have my section on, so let's hide that. And we could go and say we don't want the roof on here. And then we can right click on this view and we can click Update Scene. And so if we wanted that roof to show, we could right click again and go Update Scene again. So it's really easy to kind of change what you want to have in your object you're building for those different tag elements, and you can use tags as kind of a way to organize you and what you're doing.